As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission, I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up, fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah. Cause this is my road, let's camera action.
You're listening to the Tom Ficklin Show on WNHHLP 103.5 FM, your home for community radio.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, wherever you might be on the galaxy at the moment, and just take real self-care wherever you might be on whatever planet or whatever spiritual you might think you're revolving on or in. This morning, I had the pleasure of chatting for another 40 minutes or so with Dr. Dwayne Smith, interim president at Southern Connecticut State University. Dr. Smith, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How you doing?
Good. I'm a little embarrassed to do the show. We've been doing our show since 2015, but I was researching and saw that you've been interviewed by Ramon Peralta, and Ramon was on the show maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and Gigi and her buddy, you kind of talked to her, but more importantly, while you were at Housatonic Community College, you were a host. So you've sat in both seats for a while and understand the power of communication. So I really don't have any questions to ask you that have not been posed before, and more importantly, that you have not answered. I mean, I watched your talk on educational leadership, et cetera, and your family background. So I want to kind of just take a deep breath today. I mean, we will talk about the transformative power of education and obviously Southern's significant role in the region, as well as, the New York Times even talked about the value of education. But I wanted to kind of just set up a psychic moment. And as we give you a chance to kind of have the mic, things might come across your mind that you have not had a chance to say to folks in the past, or things might have crossed your mind this morning that you like to share. So I want to kind of keep it open if we can as well,
sure,
and not just rely on a script. Let's start off if we can. I mean, folks can kind of Google your background. You do not become interim president of a university without a significant educational background. You're at Housatonic College. You're in the Midwest, and they can Google that. I don't want to spend too much time on that. Obviously, you have your doctorate. And just to kind of be, again, folks, interim president, Southern Connecticut State University, was in Housatonic, was leadership for Housatonic Community College, and who knows where his future might lead. But yeah, the transformative power of education, that was kind of brought to my attention, and you've spoken about that. And I want to throw not a challenging question to you, or perhaps you might perceive it to be, but if you could talk about the transformative power of education, and here's the hook. For my mind, and I hope you won't be mad at me for posing this question. In my mind, what is going on in the Middle East is perhaps the most current sterling example of the failure of education. What's occurring in the Middle East at the moment might be an indication of let's say the challenges of education. Wonder if that kind of resonates with you at all in terms of the question.
Sure, Tom. First of all, I want to thank you for having me on your show and being able to dialogue. I count it as a great opportunity. I'm not sure what's meant by failure of education, but I want to go back. You know, when I started school 45 years ago as an undergraduate, it was amidst of the embassy takeover in Iran. And there was turmoil in the Middle East, and some would say that was, among other things, you know, Jimmy Carter lost the election, and of course Ronald Reagan became president. Then the Iranian hostages were released, and I'm not sure if you remember, there was days they would have a ticker tape, like 100 days, that sort of thing. But I remember on our campus there was turmoil, you know, as a African American first year student on a predominantly white campus. Not only were there these anti-Iranian protests and pro-Iranian protests, mainly anti, we were doing boycott. It was boycott because the homecoming process was. So there was always this this not turmoil, but this unrest.
Mm-hmm.
If you look historically, even through the civil rights movement, a lot of the unrest they were begun by young people.
Yes.
You know, when you think about the sit-in protests, you know,
Yes.
there was those young people, and as I never left a college campus from the time of my first year in 1979. So I was hired right after college, and so it was a time through. I remember the apartheid process,
Mm-hmm.
this rise of student activism.
Mm-hmm.
At my campus, they took over the administration building. We didn't have any funds invested in South Africa, but that was a movement. So my point is that this is a process that happens, you know, and young people usually lead movements until they are older people, you know.
And
So,
or assassinated. Mm-hmm.
well, most of them, but see, here's the thing, you know, most people are not assassinated. They either kind of embed themselves in the establishment. So, like all those individuals in the 50s and the 60s, a multicultural coalition that fought for equality, they're now in their late 70s, 80s, or some 90s, you know, and some kind of stayed with the process, and some went on and became part of the establishment. So the point for me is that this is just a snapshot in time. It is horrific that what's happening. I think on college campuses, there's always been a response to the world events. That's
indeed. And I really appreciate your mentioning the need for SNCC and for you didn't mention SNCC by name, but SNCC, and also the Vietnam War might not have ended when it did if it wasn't for the significant student protest on campuses. So I really, not to mention the establishment of Black Studies programs and African American centers. So let me jump if I can, and I appreciate your being transparent with me about opportunities at Southern as we speak to grapple with this current Mideast crisis. I share with folks that I asked them who was Ralph Bunche, and people then forget that he won the Nobel Peace Prize for trying to resolve the 1948 crisis. And I asked him about Andy Young, and do you know he was United Nations ambassador, and why did he have to resign? Then I had to remind them that he met with Arafat and unofficially and had to resign. And then when you mentioned Jimmy Carter, I kind of remind people about the books that Jimmy Carter wrote about apartheid in the Middle East. So I really appreciate your mentioning that. But from a college campus today, are there things that you might be able to, can Southern, how can the students perhaps understand their historical moment in time on Southern as we speak?
I would just say the first thing is that discourse is welcome. That's really what builds a stronger foundation for our country and for our communities. Again, if you think historically, who led various movements, they were young people.
Yes.
You think about Martin Luther King, Dr. King, and the Montgomery bus boycotts. Indeed. He was in his mid-20s.
Yes.
When he did that. And so it wasn't really something that was led by the establishment. It was always young people pushing and moving for whatever the cause it was. So one point you bring up that I think is interesting to note, that in the past, people had a historical context of things. So they kind of operated from that perspective, opposed to today is a new day, but this is a continuation. So part of our role is really to provide discourse, but also historical context, why things are, and I think that helps the situation. I'm going to go back to, I think it was 2014, and I was in St. Louis, Missouri.
Yes.
Working with Michael Brown.
Bring it.
That happened. Yeah, and so I mean, it was St. Louis was a totally different place. I mean, the world converged upon St. Louis, and I would say that was really the birthplace of the modern day contemporary social justice movement.
Sure. Black Lives, the genesis of Black Lives Matter started there.
That's right. And so what I remember, that MLK, I think it was maybe 2015, there was this nationwide call to disrupt MLK programs. So at our school, I think we had the second largest MLK celebration other than Atlanta. But then we had this other smaller, our school was this kind of this centerpiece for all types of activism, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So this particular program, it wasn't a major one, but it was a program where they honored all the leaders of St. Louis. That these are people who were part of the boycotts, the sit-ins. These people who were arrested, beat,
Yes.
and they were like in their 70s, 80s, and some were close to 90. And so the goal was nationwide to disrupt these MLK. So I remember being there, and all of a sudden I was behind stage, and I remember hearing all this noise, right? And so these young people came in to disrupt it, screaming and yelling. And I remember this one woman, she had to be in her 80s. She was frightened out of her wits. And this young man yells at her and said, "Where were you?" or something like that. "We've been out here for months." And I caught the irony of it, that these people, these elders had been out there for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And they thought the third 3 months would equate, because they didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And what they were doing, they was taking selfies and posted it. You know, I wouldn't say it was performative, but what happens is they terrorize their elders because they didn't know. You know, and I had to speak on that. And so it's important for us to have discourse, to have protest, but we also have to have at a college campus, intellectual discussion.
For sure.
At Southern, let me say, and I think so. Southern, our D&I division is developing those types of discussions. You know,
Indeed.
teaching. Yeah, and so that's part of our responsibility as an institution.
And historically, you guys have had the, correct me if I'm wrong, but your social justice equity week, I mean, or a month. In the past, you've had a number of events focusing just on social justice and equity.
And here's the thing, it's embedded in what we do. So there's not we do the celebratory months, Black History Month, Women History, all this stuff, but it has to be embedded in what we do throughout the year. And that's the thing that I feel most proud of, is that this is in the forefront of what we do. It's not performative, you know, and that's not to be critiquing or criticizing any other organization or institution, but this is what we do. We do the hard work, you know. We deal with the hard challenges as an institution, and I believe that it makes the community stronger, and it also helped to develop leaders.
Indeed. You know, and that kind of, and I really appreciate your comments. That kind of connects with Southern, understandably, has the ranking, the significant ranking within regional institutions here in New England in particular, in terms of the social mobility thing. I mean, people sharpen their axe and understand their role in life, and understand that they can empower themselves. Talk a little bit about that. The Southern's ranking is one of the top 25 regional institutions.
Absolutely. CollegeNet, they conducted a study and then ranked all the schools in the nation on social mobility. What that means is that, how do you educate low wealth, I call low income, low wealth scholars, and I call our student scholars, who may have difficulty. You know, they are first generation and they're low wealth. And how do we prepare them that they can change their lives? And we were ranked 25th out of all the schools in the nation, social mobility. And why is this important? It's important because the discussion debate now is the viability of a college degree.
That's right.
And so the first time ever, probably in our history, that more Americans believe that a college degree is not necessary. Some of them probably just because of all the political things, but also we focus on student debt. You know, and they use that as a indicator. But what we show at Southern is that is absolutely essential to have post-secondary credentials. That means after high school. But we also show that the students that arrive here, they graduate and having what they call it well-paying jobs, but we say careers that matter. So it's not jumping from this job to this job, but having a career. And Georgetown University, they conducted a study on the like what matters in terms of financially for degrees. So they found that a student, a graduate with a college degree, has the potential lifetime career earnings of $2.8 million. And so we extrapolate that to our first year class. We have about 1,227 scholars. So we project that this 2023 class will have a career earnings of $3.5 billion. That's significant because most of our students are first generation, 57% of those students, which means that once they graduate, they can shift the trajectory of their family's life for generations to come. The other piece is that they're low wealth.
Yes.
So for me, that's what really matters. And it shows that at Southern, but also other institutions, we could talk about that college does make a difference in the lives of particularly those underserved and under-resourced people.
Indeed, and I urge folks to kind of just Google your name and just go to the YouTube slot and put in Dr. Dwayne Smith, and you'll see the various comments he's made over historically. And one I want to give you a chance to kind of repeat that you've put your, and again I know we've just meeting for the first time, but you put, so sometimes I can talk crassly. You put your money where your mouth is in terms of social mobility and economic uplift for students. I mean, you've invested, you've created some funds. You to talk a little bit more about your personal. It's not that you're just not just talking the talk, but you've been walking the walk.
Oh yeah. So I think one of the things you're speaking of at Housatonic, we started what we call the equity fund.
Yes.
To really burrow down on those individuals, those scholars who may need extra resources.
Yes.
And so we started with a $10,000 commitment from me, and it has since grown to, I believe, over $500,000.
Yes.
So my thing is that that's really what matters in the lives of scholars. I just remember struggling throughout my college years, and my mother didn't have anything, and I would like to talk about, some people are not going to Google my story, right? So they kind of, so we got to talk about it because that's
all
where
right.
it is,
all right. Lift up moms. Let's go to the sharecropper and explain. They even explain, if you want to go to the sharecropper, fine. I know you're going to bring it up, but some of our people don't even know what sharecropper, the young people, what sharecropper meant.
Well, they need to look that part up. But I just talked with this individual. I won't mention his name because he tells his own story, but he's very successful in the New Haven area. And he was telling his story. He said that he was his family's sharecropper. And what he said is that, and this person is much younger than my mother. My mother's story is that they truncated the school year because what Black people did in the South, where most Black people reside, is that they picked cotton. And the sharecropping part is that the owners were mainly white. They owned the land, and the Black folk, whatever they tilled, whatever crop that was on there, and then they got money at the end of the year. And it wasn't really a equitable situation. Usually, these Black folks were cheated out of their money. But my point is that they didn't have educational opportunities. This person who I spoke with, he had said that at noon, his family would pick him up, and they would pick cotton and tobacco and those sort of things. So we're saying that and he's really successful. So it just wasn't the days of my mother, and some of the stuff still, not to this extent decades ago, it still exists. But the point is that my mother believed firmly in the transformative power of education. Our lives was transformed. I mean, coming from horrific poverty, and to be honest, I'm 62 years old. I'm telling my age, right?
All right.
And I was probably more. I spent fewer of my years in my life in poverty than not, but it had a significant impact. The trauma of being poor has significant impact in so many different ways. We can have a different story on that. How people think about themselves, even when they're out of that.
Yes.
My point is that because education made such a difference, not only in terms of financial piece, but I came out a different person. My freshman year, I mean, when we were doing this activism, I claimed my space, and I talk about it now, to claim your space. And I did that. And not only helped me in terms of just social and economic mobility, it just helped me as a Black man living in this country.
Share with folks what you majored in undergrad and then your doctorate degree. And then I want to ask you, oftentimes people will say they'll look at, are you into sports at all, like tennis or basketball or any of that?
Kind of in the peripheral, yeah.
But if I said a famous, say people know Serena and Venus were proteges. But if you look at tapes of, say, Nadal or Roger Federer or Carlos Alcaraz, now you can find videos of them 11 and 12 excelling. I want to ask you, in addition to what I guess I asked you, the tag team, 2 or 3 times in your life that you didn't get where you are today by accident. I want to ask you 2 or 3 events in your life that you can recall where a critical decision was made that you think translates to where you are now. 2 or 3 times in your life where you might have made a decision that relates to, enabled you to catapult you to your position where you are now. So if you remember all those questions, that's fine. I don't.
Sure. And I'm just going to ask the question I'll answer, right? I'm like, you didn't answer my question. Well, that's what I want to tell you. That's what I want to share with you. So I think the one thing I remember a lot is that I really locked up all of my memories of being impoverished. When I was ashamed of it, I was embarrassed by it. And so the best thing I could do is just lock it up and put it away. Then at some point, I said it was okay. I was able to thrive, but then I had to unpack my childhood to understand my adult life. And that's what happens, whenever you go to therapy, whatever you do, people say, let's start off when you was a child. Because that gives you understanding of you as an adult. So one of the things I used to do, I remember early on when we were in this horrific home that had all kind of stuff, I remember getting up in the middle of the night, I would rock. I call it imagining now, visioning. But I would think of myself being in another space. It was almost like I was watching a movie of myself. And I remember that importantly because it allowed me to see myself differently. So what happens, you internalize things, people internalize racism. You start believing the things that people say about you. You can't do this because of who you are. I would say that was the thing that helped me along the way, because I internalized some things, but most stuff I rejected because I had an alternate universe. That was the first thing. The other part really was my brother was the first Smith in 120 years to earn a college degree. I mean, we trace our lineage back to 1820. He received this degree 150 years later. And so that set the stage. It wasn't a matter of, will I go to college? I knew I was going to go to college. Now, I wasn't prepared for college. I wanted to be a psychiatrist. I wanted to change my major to psychology. But here's the thing. I went to a technical school. I went to a regular high school. So during that time period, I'm talking about the 70s, it was like, how do you prepare yourself for the workforce, And so I was taking classes on cashiering, how to be a cashier, how to be a cashier. So one day we would bag groceries. This is a class. I'm getting ready to bag groceries. Put the stuff at the bottom, and then how to, this is back in the day, and you probably remember that the cash register, you had to figure out overrates. Like somebody didn't have enough money, the cash register didn't do it for you. Now they do it. So I was taking those kind of courses, even though I wanted to go to medical school. And so when I went off to college, it really kicked my butt. But I knew I was going to finish up. I switched to psychology. But one of the things that happened in my freshman year, through all this turmoil in the country, I found my voice. And I was never the same. That freshman year, it literally transformed me to a different kind of person. I was really passive, quiet. I shared a story too. So I remember I worked in a government office, and I have a speech impediment. And if I talk quickly, you can kind of catch it. But I really had it as a teenager. So I couldn't pronounce the FUs. I would say, like funeral, I would say funeral. And I remember in this office and trying to truncate this story, but there was a major athlete, J.V. Kane. He played for the St. Louis Cardinals football team, was in St. Louis. The Cardinals were in St. Louis. And so he died. It was such a tragic event, and the whole city was mourning. And so his funeral was going to be in my neighborhood, which I lived in the hood, right? So I was excited that this guy's funeral was going to be in my neighborhood. So I go to work, all white office, white supervisor, and I say, J.V. Kane funeral is going to be in my neighborhood. And my supervisor said, what did you say? She says, say funeral. I said, funeral. She started laughing. No, that's not how you pronounce it. It's funeral. And what I did, because I allowed this to happen, she took me around all these different white women at their desk and asked me to say funeral so she could poke fun at me.
Mm.
And it wasn't until there was a black secretary there, and she went to the black secretary and said, I said, Diane, you're going to get kicked out of this. Dwayne say funeral. I said, funeral. And the woman gave me like an auntie mama look. Like, if you don't sit down doing that foolishness. At that point, I had a sense of embarrassment. And I wouldn't say funeral for 3 years. And it was, so once I got to college, that stuff would never happen again. I mean, I challenge people, but what it is, because I just kind of, you can invade my space any kind of way, and I would accept it. And so those are things that made a difference to the person I am today. Those are the things, you know, it wasn't the degrees, it was experiences. It was the being empowered. And I said today, claim your space. I tell the first year student, claim your space. It don't make no difference if people think that you don't belong there. You belong there. And that was the thing that kind of catapulted me to my success.
Tremendous. Jump and segue, because I want to ask what makes Southern unique, but in some ways you are making Southern unique. But in addition to that, what makes Southern unique from your standpoint? In terms of your legacy, and to say the word interim president is there, and who knows what the future might hold. But we're keeping our fingers crossed. But what makes Southern unique to you?
I would say that. And Southern was unique before I arrived here, so I'm not taking it. I just been here since June, But I think that what makes it special and this unique place, and I would say it's often that we're the greatest higher education institution in the state of Connecticut, and we're not great because we have a large endowment, because we don't. We're great because of the students or scholars that we serve. We're the most diverse campus, and we provide successful opportunities for these scholars. And keep in mind, as I said before, that 63% of our scholars are students of color, this first year students. And most of them are the first in their family to go to college. So that presents a tremendous opportunity for us to change their lives. And the reason why I am humbled to serve as the president of Southern is because I see myself in many of our scholars trying to make it happen, having all these kind of things they work in, and they have responsibilities, but yet they're here. They have the courage to say, I'm going to do better in my life. And then we have the faculty and staff that make a difference day in and day out. I was talking with someone, I was at a board meeting, and one of the persons said, Southern is great because I came there with my son, and he was thinking about going to another school. But he came to campus. He said the faculty members spent over an hour with my son. Over an hour. This wasn't the admissions officer. It was the faculty member. And I added too, as part of my ego, I said, and also you can see the president. They will call and say, can I stop by and say hello to the president? I know being in this role and been in higher education for 4 years, that's unique. But also just the different types of programs, undergraduate research we have. We have students doing work that you have been in graduate school to do. We just received a $3.2 million grant from the National Science Foundation, a very competitive grant, to aggressively recruit, retain, and graduate underrepresented groups in STEM fields.
In the STEM field, absolutely.
And that's going to be transformative.
It's still, yes. And you're, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had your the business school ribbon cutting recently.
Oh yes. So we just opened a $52 million business school, state-of-the-art facilities. Outstanding, again, faculty. We just had the first annual Black Entrepreneurship Awards program. So we honored entrepreneurs in New Haven region at the business school. And so we're doing more of those sort of things, outreach to the community.
And last year, I believe you had the, I forget the exact name, what's your public health school, the Sandy Balmer, I think is the dean.
Yes, Sandy, yes, the Dean Balmer.
But you have a new building, you have a building that opened up last year. Pristine building.
Yes, so not only we have the state-of-the-art facilities, which is very critical, but we provide the training in social work. We have one of the largest social work programs in the state, and it's a diverse social work program. Our nursing program, we're partnering with Yale to double the number of nurses. There's a major shortage for nurses in the state. And one thing that I was impressed with when I went to my first pinning ceremony as president, it was diverse. I mean, in terms of the gender, ethnic diversity, and so that's what makes us this strong place. We have different arts group that's on our campus. St. Louis, not St. Louis. I'm sorry, I'm thinking St. Louis. New Haven, New Haven Symphony Orchestra, the Shakespearean Theater, Long Wharf. All those are housed. Their home is here.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Let's take another 5 minutes because again, with your busy schedule, and I guess really appreciate your. Well, actually, what can you say publicly? What's on your schedule today? Give people a little feel for the Friday life of Dr. Dwayne Smith. What's next? Is that who are you? What movers and shakers are you shaking?
Well, the first one is you.
Okay, well, admit it, and we're kicking you off. So how about in the second half after you have to have time?
So I meet with our division of world languages, and I needed my schedule because really my schedule is back to back, and so I just kind of look at it and go to my next one. But mainly what you'll see in my schedule is a diversity of people. So I had a major leader. Entrepreneur here before this meeting. Probably have some meetings with students. I meet with students. There's probably some off-campus events. I know this evening the women's volleyball will be playing here at 7 o'clock. Good. And so I spend Friday night. So the one positive thing about my experiences now is that I have 5 kids, and we're empty nesters. So my last daughter graduated, and now she's a sophomore at Xavier in New Orleans, but that allows me the flexibility to be out and about. So people say, I see you everywhere. Excellent. Well, yeah, you see me everywhere because that's my goal, to be everywhere.
Dr. Smith, as we wrap up, let's take a deep breath, and I want to draw upon your interest in psychology. And what I'm trying to spit out, and this thought has been on my mind for a while, that the challenges of us, of this human species working together, talking to one another, being transparent, being honest, regardless of the forums or the venues or the so-called meeting agendas. Those challenges of just human interactions just have been dominating my mind. I won't get into my particular journey at the moment, but I'm just curious, what do you draw upon to kind of keep you optimistic as you interact with so many different people with their own psychology perspectives, people with their own perception of what reality is? What kind of centers you as you kind of navigate this journey of creating peace on earth?
Yeah, that is a great question that I grapple with daily. I'm just no one's naturally any kind of way, so I can't say I'm naturally optimistic. But I go back historically, and that's why it's important for us to unpack. I'm talking about individually, right? Unpack who we are. So I think back in those horrific days that I did not give up, because people lose hope as early as kindergarten. Kids are committing suicide at they're right out of diapers, and they're hopeless, But during those horrific events, all the bullying and all sort of things, I just always knew it was going to be better. And I can pull back on those experiences and say, if I went through that, I could certainly go through this. The other piece is always been empathetic. This is one of the things that I was taught as a first-year student at my undergraduate school, to kind of look at everyone's perspective. And that really shifted my attitude about things. Not to have to agree with their perspective, but really understanding the perspective, see where they're coming from. And this is one I try to practice daily, is to listen more than to talk. And if my people around here, they say, Dr. Smith can talk. but in my mind, I say, now be quiet and listen. Ask questions. ask questions, to delve in. That when my session is over, whatever meeting, I should know more about that person than they know about me. And I do know about people because I'm interested in people. So that's what keeps my drive going. But I always just say it's a better tomorrow. When I think about my aunts, my elders, and they'll tell these stories, and these are horrifying stories, but they'll tell them as it's a comedy story. So one of the stories my aunt used to tell, she's 91 years old. She's a remaining sibling of 10 children. And she said when they were little kids, they would have to walk to school. We're talking about 7 and 8 miles to school. And the white kids, they had buses. And so she would say when the school bus would come, they would have to jump into the ditch because they would make these paper airplanes, but they would put stick pins in them. And so when the airplanes these kids would throw these airplanes out their window, if you didn't get out the way, you would get stuck by these straight pins. And they would tell this story, and I'm saying, how did you able to be here now and not be bitter? So what am I going through that's going to cause me to be bitter when you've gone through that, right? And so those are things that I conjure up on a regular basis, So how can I get better? How can I get stronger? How can I encourage? How can I motivate? That's what kind of keeps me centered.
Excellent. Dr. Smith, thank you so much. I won't be stalking you for the rest of the day, but I am going to be stalking you in the future, in the sense of hoping to have you back on the show, and I'm sure I'll see you around. I've missed your variety of events, and your communications people have been really kind to me to kind of reach out and keep me abreast. So I really feel part of your journey as well.
Thank you. And I want to talk more when we talk again, more about, less about me, of course, but I think it's important for the listeners to know who I am, but to talk about the great work. And if I can very quickly say this, if I have 30 seconds. So we have a strategic plan that's out, and our priorities this year will be to increase our enrollment, to increase our retention, meaning that students actually come to campus, they stay. Persistence meaning that they go throughout those years, and at the end of it, that they will graduate. We have an ambitious fundraising goal. At some point, we will launch a comprehensive campaign with the goal is to raise $100 million for scholarships, to be more assertive with providing scholarships in all areas, whether it be athletics, study abroad, residence halls. Our students deserve it. And so that excites me and keeps me optimistic that things will change.
Absolutely. I'll be in touch, and we'll get on your calendar again. This is
Thank
great.
You. Yes, sir. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. That's it. And really have a great day, great weekend, and go Owls, right?
Go Owls. That's right. There you go.
Take care.
All right.
As I got another rhyme, another rhythm for y'all to listen. I'm never quitting on my mission. I'ma roll with what I'm giving. Got some ambition, this new edition, filling positions. Looking at the void in myself and feeling what's missing. Better watch the way you going, better go in the right direction. In the moment you stressing, but you gon' be counting blessings. And I know that for certain. Keep on working, open curtains, haters swerving, cause they ain't ready for your final version. Whoa. I'm never gonna give up. Fall down, I just gotta get up, yeah.